Greetings, off-season After Dark fans. Glad to have you here for episode 55, and I'm very happy to say that we have Reed here with us. Been trying to collaborate with Reed for a few weeks now. I'm sure a lot of you are seeing him on Twitter/X, maybe even YouTube. But for those of you that don't know, the visuals I've been using about the conference projections and some other things, largely the work of Reed. So that's when I frequently mentioned they were his graphics or it was someone who I was going to have on the show in the future. We are finally at that day. So Reed, thank you for being here and thank you for your assist with the fantastic graphics. One thing that we have that's different for today, Reed, like myself, is not focused on one team. So most of our guests do, and we dive into one team. Reed is kind of an everything guy like myself, so we decided to dive into a specific conference to do a preview of that. As you can see by the title, the Mountain West is where we landed. So, Reed, thank you for being here. And why don't you tell the audience two things? What got you in the space of creating college football content? What got you into it? And where can they find you and follow you?
Well, first off, thank you for the kind words. You know, at least someone recognizes the work that I do. So Absolutely. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. That means a lot. So basically, I mean, just quick, long story short, I got into content really, watching Josh Page, JD Bickel, all the main like big name podcasts you watch. So really, I just got in watching them, and I figured, I have conversations like this with my friends all the time. Just sitting on the couch watching college football every weekend. And I was agreeing with everyone else. It's the greatest sport on planet Earth. It's better than the NFL. It's better than baseball, even though there's nothing else to watch in the summer. But college football never sleeps at the end of the day. There's never an off season. So I figured, why not throw my hat in the ring? I figured I know enough. I can talk about this sport just like anyone else, and gotten pretty good traction so far on all my platforms. So, pretty much that's just where it got started. I figured why not try it myself at the end of the day. So, but again, Mike, appreciate you having me on. Excited to get into the Mountain West for sure.
Glad to hear it. No, that's a good story. I definitely you said like there's no off season. I feel like we've been in talking season for about 4 months now, and I think we're finally happy that real football is here, even if it's only going to be against each other for another couple of weeks until week 0. But
for sure,
practice is finally here. That's good to talk about. So let's start up with the Mountain West. We can get right into that. And obviously it's a new look with the Pac-12, forming a new look / old look Pac-12, the Mountain West bringing over Northern Illinois, North Dakota State. We have a conference where really Northern Illinois, one of the new teams, is the only one who has a new head coach. Rob Harley is the interim there after Thomas Hammock bounced to the NFL.
Yeah.
But we have a lot. Troy Calhoun is entering year 20 at the Air Force Academy. Super impressive there. And we have, a couple other guys like Ken Numatalolo hasn't been at San Jose for a long time, but he's been in college football for multiple decades. Timmy Chang, veteran, there's a lot of coaches here who Dan Mullen is a guy. So I did a UNLV episode last week. Many of our viewers might remember that. So, but in looking at this conference, what are some off-season talking points that you noticed with this conference that stood out to you?
First of all, from my perspective, New Mexico is not getting enough love.
Okay.
I feel like, everyone like that I've seen publicly put out their like G6 prediction for like the playoff. It's either Boise State, it's UNLV. I've seen some people get on Hawaii, Navy, out of the American, UTSA. I've seen a couple of times. And those are all great football teams without a doubt. I think New Mexico is possibly the most slept on team in potentially the whole entire group of 6, in my estimation. This is a team that can make a run at the playoff, let alone the conference championship. I think Jason Eck doesn't get enough respect as a head coach. Yeah, you might have seen him go on Josh Pate's show, over the offseason, and he's finally getting like a national recognition. But to come over from Idaho a few years ago now, only going into his second season, and to win 9 games in his first year at New Mexico, get him on the edge of a conference championship game, even though they got honestly screwed because the Mountain West used
I forgot about the
computer formula. Yes. Yeah, I don't even want to explain it. So anyway, they got screwed.
I never thought we would say this. They might have decided their conference championship game worse than the ACC did.
Easily worse than the ACC. Yeah, easily worse than the ACC. To put it in the hands of a computer that put Boise State in their conference championship, who had no business even being in that game. Yeah, either way. New Mexico, I think they also return a ton of production, mainly on the defensive side. Jackson Eck at linebacker, who is Jason Eck's son. Yeah. Mercury Swain, Brian Booker, Darren Agu. I think they have mainly the defense is what I get excited about when I look at this team on paper. So I just think holistically they're not getting enough love. I think they could really make a run at the conference championship, solely because I think UNLV is still a massive question mark at quarterback. I'm not the hugest believer in Jackson Arnold holistically on the roster. They're going to be good on paper. Like Jaden Thomas, a running back, is arguably the best running back in the group of 6. But holistically, quarterback is going to be a question mark for me. They have some holes on defense I think they have to fill. So everyone's a huge fan of UNLV, but I think New Mexico is the real team that has to get all the talking points right now for me.
I think that's a good point. I mean, this New Mexico team is one I like a lot. Do you think there is a chance that they go 11-1 in the regular season? Now, for those of you out there, assuming New Mexico probably drops their game at Oklahoma in week 3, we would assume that much out of a team that was a playoff team last year. But you're looking at this schedule, and you have UNLV at home, Wyoming at home, Air Force all at home their last 3 games, North Dakota State at home. Your conference road games, Hawaii, San Jose State, Nevada, those aren't too bad. I mean, relative to how you would lay out a conference schedule, this is about what you would pick if you were in that conference. I feel like that is also part of the reason I think they're not getting enough respect is because the conference schedule is very favorable. All their hardest games are at home. North Dakota State, who everyone is really high on making the jump from the FCS, they get them at home. UNLV, they get them at home. Air Force, who I think is going to be another really competitive team, they get them at home. So the conference schedule works out for them well. The ceiling I have for them is 11-1, just solely to your point. That Oklahoma game on the road at conference, I think is a for sure loss in my opinion. But New Mexico, I think holistically, again, and I've talked about this on the Red Zone live shows too. Like when I look at teams, the first thing I go to is offensive and defensive lines, because I think that defines a lot of what a football team is going to be that season. They returned 4 stars in the offensive line, which is 76% of their production, 8 starters holistically on offense. They return their starting quarterback. They have continuity at both coordinator positions. So I think even though they're a co-favorite with UNLV to win the conference, I think they're the sole favorite in my opinion. I like that. No, that's thanks for the insight there. Let's shift to the other co-favorite, UNLV. So for sure, our viewers will remember I had Mr. Kelly on last week to talk UNLV football, and it was a good episode. You know, I think they're a team who it's weird with UNLV how for 20 plus years you didn't go to a bowl game. They were just awful until Barry Odom got there, and how quick their attitude shifted to we're one of the better teams in the G6 now. Where, you know, they jumped multiple pedestals almost overnight, which I find kind of interesting. Yeah. Now, they've won a lot of games the last 3 years, but I think still remains to be seen whether they will have staying power or not. They certainly could. Everything points in that direction, but it's a relatively small sample size after 2 decades of failure. Yeah, and I think the first thing I look at with this UNLV team, I mean, even the Vegas win total line kind of tells you a little bit. It's only at 7.5, and yet everyone is sky high on this team. Yeah. I mean, right out of the gate, they have 3 pretty good tests out of the Hawaii game's not out of conference, but they open with Memphis, at Hawaii, and then at North Texas. Could
Could you imagine if that North Texas team was the same one they had last year with Eric Morris coach, Mestamaker, Hawkins, Wyatt Young? Like, that would have been arguably G6 game of the year. Instead, they probably open with the G6 game of the year against Memphis. But we're going to know a lot about this UNLV team right out of the gate. And let alone they have to play. They have to make a weird road trip as well to Akron in their fourth game. So,
but as game, because that Akron team, I've told this story a few times. The greatest football meme of all of last season was last year. Joe Moorhead getting this Akron team to 5 wins should qualify Joe Moorhead for sainthood. The guy is a really good coach.
Let alone, I think he might get fired this year, but that's another story.
We don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. But they're going to be really after that Hawaii. So Memphis is week 0, Hawaii is week 1. We're going to know a lot about this UNLV team after week 1 because they will have played 2 games against 2 worthy G6 opponents in Memphis and Hawaii.
Yep. Let alone they also have an out-of-conference game against Cal in, what is that, week 6? Yeah. So, very tough out-of-conference schedule. I think a lot of people aren't highlighting. And personally, I'm not the biggest Jackson Arnold person. Everyone's expecting, Dan Mullen lit the world on fire with Calandria last year. I don't think that necessarily translates, at least to me. In my opinion, I don't think that translates immediately with Jackson Arnold. Okay. Even the fact that they've come out, or Mullen has come out and said that they're still he's in a battle with Alex Orji of all quarterbacks, who's not even a quarterback, he's a glorified running back. So, yeah, I think it's really a lot of this offense is going to be Jet Thomas at running back.
He's good.
The wide receiver room is rebuilt. 4 portal additions on the offensive line, even though they bring back 3 starters. So holistically, offense, I think, has some questions. And the defensive line kind of looks suspect to me. They only bring in 1 portal addition there from a unit that is kind of not the same it was last year. So, yeah, there's multiple questions I think aren't getting highlighted with UNLV personally.
Okay. No, that's all good to know. I appreciate because they are one of those teams, like you mentioned, everybody's real high on them. I always enjoy when people have dissenting opinions here and we can dive into why you feel that way. So that's all very good info on a team who I won't spend as much time on, largely because we did their preview last week on the show. Next, let's go to the team who I expect might be the most improved in the conference, the Air Force Falcons. They were 4-8 last year, 5 wins the year before. I think they're going to be pretty good this year. And from engaging with you and seeing not only what you said tonight, but everything you've done in the past, this summer, spring, I think you feel similar about Air Force as me. That they're going to be improved. Yes.
Definitely. Right off the top, they returned their starting quarterback, Liam Sarska. Although it is worth noting, if people don't know Air Force that well, they do run the classic service academy, triple option, hybrid offense. So continuity at quarterback, offensive coordinator. They do bring in a new defensive coordinator, but I think holistically that's going to be an upgrade because they were abysmal at times defensively last year. And on top of that, they return 8 starters defensively. So if that's anything to go off of, having continuity with an upgraded system, I think is anything to go off of. And they're one of the, in my opinion, something that also goes a lot into when I preview teams. They're one of the oldest rosters in all of college football. The average age of this team is 20 and a half. So we've seen it with Indiana, for an example, the last few years, having a really old, experienced football team with an experienced head coach in that system, can heavily benefit you.
Last year, I had a guy that does Air Force coverage full-time on the show, and he talked about that notion of how you look at the 3 service academies. It's very cyclical in that rarely are they good for 2 years in a row, but they're also rarely bad for 4 years in a row because they're going to play guys young. They're using the portal less, and you're going to have every couple of years, you have a senior laden team that's taken their lumps and then is ready to go. Air Force is that team this year.
Yeah. So, and to your point, it's even more impressive for the service academies because they can't bring in players from the portal at all. Yes. Players can leave through the portal. They can't bring them in. Yeah. So that's what makes it even more impressive. I'm curious to see from your perspective what sticks out to you about this Air Force team aside from my views.
I think Steve Russ was a very good hire at D coordinator. He had been an assistant there before. Last year, he was the D coordinator at UAB, who obviously, Trent Dilfer got fired. Alex Mortensen came in. But that team was actually decent on defense, especially after Dilfer was gone. They kind of got the dead cat bounce.
For sure.
But on D, they were all right. And they played some pretty good offenses. Memphis, North Texas scored 50 on it, but they did that against everybody last year. But their defense was all right. And then Russ, like I said, had a background at Air Force as an assistant, was with the Commanders, Panthers, spent multiple years in the NFL. I think it was a change that was needed. And also looking at that roster, their defensive backs, look, Corey Johnson, Mikhail Seekin at corner, and then Max Mostel and Kyle Chen at safety. Their D-backs are going to be among the better ones in this conference. So I think they'll be a team who, if they can handle their business in the trenches, usually the service academies do, they could be a tougher team to throw on defense. And if they're a team, if they keep it close with you, just by the nature of the way they play offense, they're going to hurt you in the end. And you don't want them to be in games. They're a team, if you put them away early, you're going to be in good shape, but you can't let them play their game late in the game. And I think they will be able to do that against most teams in this conference this year.
For sure. And you mentioned that defense, they're going to be rotating between 8 linebackers. 5 of them are seniors and 3 of them are juniors. So again, senior led team experience is going to pay off. Again, that defensive front, I have some questions about, but I think an upgraded system is what's going to elevate them holistically.
Okay. Blake Fletcher's a good linebacker. He was the one that, popped. He had over 100 tackles last year. That doesn't happen by accident. So you got to be good there.
And rotating between 3 other guys that had 30 plus tackles. So
I'm going to move this here so the viewers can see this while we're talking. But let's talk about Hawaii next, a team who, going into last year, I was unconvinced about Chang. I thought that even though he was an alumni, if things would have went really bad last year, I don't know that he would have still been around because it was his 4th year. The first 3 had not went well. They won 9 games last year and threw the ball well. Alejado's a good QB. They were a fun team to watch. Like you said, with Ashlock at receiver as well.
Mm-hmm.
They were just a team that did a lot of things well and didn't have any glaring weaknesses. But I will also say they're one of those teams in this summer. I haven't engaged with them as much or read as deep into Hawaii in the last couple months. So you're probably going to know more about them than me. What should our audience know about Hawaii that they don't, that I don't? Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Pofele Ashlock, the number 1 receiver for one of the best quarterbacks in all the G6, Mike Alejado, who I think potentially could not be on this team next year. But that's another story.
Very realistic. Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned Ashlock. He is out with a knee injury as of right now and might miss the first few weeks of the season. So how big of a blow does that take?
Know it was that. I didn't know he might miss games. I did not know it was that extreme.
Yeah, that's a rumor going around right now. I haven't seen anything confirmed yet, but he does have a knee injury in fall camp right now. So realistically, how does that affect their first few games of the season, which are pretty big for how this Hawaii team is going to perform holistically this season? On the road at Stanford, UNLV, and New Mexico State. Those are 2 of those games are going to be hard out of conference games, and New Mexico State, I think they could be even without Ashlock. So holistically, how is this offense going to look without Alejado's number 1 weapon? And behind him, I kind of have questions at receiver because it's really just Ashlock returning. They bring back Cam Barfield in the backfield, who is an okay running back. Devin Rice, I think, has a chance to be an impact at transfer running back. Coming in, I think, from Kansas State. Yeah, Kansas State. So I think holistically that backfield has a chance to be explosive, but Defense, I kind of have questions about as well, but holistically, I think taking the step up last year with Timmy Chang is really a lot of what this program is going forward. I mean, they have bought into his beliefs. They have continuity of both coordinators. So I think holistically, they're going to take another step forward. It's just really how do they look without Ashlock on the field now? Because, I mean, he's really the only receiver coming back to this team that has really any production.
With him out, they're almost certainly going to start 3 guys who transferred from P4 schools. Carson Brown was at Iowa State, Trey Griffiths, Oklahoma State, and Audric Harris was at Washington, I believe. So, but they're also guys that we haven't seen them get a ton of volume in their previous schools either. So, yeah, with Ashlock out, there are some unknowns there.
Yeah, and I mean, they went really portal heavy holistically.
Yeah, they did.
Like, even on the offensive line, they bring in Danaris DeRosa from San Jose State, Lipe Moala, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Oregon.
Lipe Moala from Oregon.
Yeah, a South Florida transfer, Khalil Walker on the offensive line as well. So kind of putting together not patchwork offensive line, but pieces that are returning. Like Dean Brisky is a good offensive tackle. Yeah, who else is here? Like
Ethan Spencer's at center. He returns there. So,
Manuma at guard as well. Got some playing time. So yeah, holistically, it's going to be in the defensive line also some questions, but some transfer additions there as well. So realistically, I think the thing that could really hold back this team is if the offensive and defensive lines don't pan out with the portal additions they bring in, but they definitely have the ability to do that. Because again, if we saw last year that this offense is definitely capable of putting up points in a hurry if everything clicks together.
They are, yeah. Now on the defensive side of the ball, they haven't been great on D, though last year they certainly improved a lot. One of the notable, we were talking with Air Force, their D coordinator came over from UAB. Well, Hawaii's knows Elijah Williams played for him at UAB last year and is now with the Rainbow Warriors. And then went a little, in the defensive backfield, 4 guys they brought in are either 1 or 2 on the depth chart. So more portal heavy there as well. But what about Hawaii's defense? Should we know?
This is going to, I mean, Elijah Palmer is a good cornerback. Aside from that, in the secondary, a lot of question marks. Again, they improved throughout the season last year, but this is probably the unit that could hold back this team defensively. Like Jemai Otis is a good linebacker, 54 tackles last year, 3 for loss. Wyndon, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name. Wyndon, another senior linebacker, 24 tackles, came over from Nebraska a few years ago. But aside from those 2 at linebacker, behind them is really young depth. They have 3 or 4 sophomores, excuse me. And then the secondary, although it's a lot of senior players, just not a ton of like proven production between all of them. So aside from Elijah,
Gibson's about it.
Elijah Gibson, Elijah Palmer, aside from those 2, it's kind of a lot of unknown in the secondary.
Caleb Brown is probably going to be that other corner. He's an interesting one because he started at JUCO, was at Hawaii and played. Went to Virginia Tech last year, didn't play much, now is back at Hawaii. So Brown could be a guy to watch there.
But again, a ton of senior-led players in the secondary. It's just not a ton of proven production.
Okay, no, that's always good to know. Let's talk about one of the newcomers next. So a team I've talked about a bit, North Dakota State, obviously an FCS power for a number of years. One of their starting linebackers last year, Nathaniel Staling, is a guy I coached him in high school in Minnesota. He has since transferred to Michigan. And for those of you that see me on Locked on Vandy with Corey, we talk frequently about Bo Johnson, O-lineman who was transferred to Vandy now and will likely start at one of their quick tackle spots. So NDSU, all their coaches returned. Tim Pulasik's there in his 3rd season. And really last year for them ended as a massive disappointment. They were 12-0 going into the playoffs. Everybody had them ranked number 1, thought they'd win the title. They get bounced by conference foe Illinois State in the playoffs in the opening round. But other than that Everybody knows they're going to play a lot of running backs, fullbacks, run the ball out, and be fundamental. What else should the audience know about him, Reed?
Return 10 starters holistically, 6 on defense, so that's really good. New quarterback, Nathan Hayes, although he got some playing time, hasn't been a starter for a full season, so I'm interested to see how that translates from the FCS level. I think holistically, I'm just intrigued on seeing this team, especially after the sour taste in their mouth of last year with the tough loss to Illinois State. I'm curious to see how they come out of the gates here in the FBS. I mean, Jacksonville State right out of the gate. I think that's going to be a fun game in Fargo. Fordham at Air Force and at Sac State. I think that Air Force game is going to be fascinating, especially because you're getting 2 teams that are known for wanting to run the ball, very disciplined teams, and I think could be a ground and pound, low scoring affair early in the season.
That game's scheduled to kick off at 9 p.m. and it might be over by 10:15 p.m.
Yep,
it's going to be a quick one. Yep.
There's going to be no penalties. They're going to be very clean teams, and they're going to want to hit you in the mouth. That's for sure.
If it's first and second down, we're going to run. If it's third and 6 or less, we're going to run. So yeah. But should be fun, and both those teams will be competitive though too. So
yeah, for sure. Another question I have. I mean, a lot. They lose their top 2 receivers from last season. So how does that receiver room look? And then defensively, they return a lot, but I mean, kind of they're plugging and playing some key pieces that they lost last year. So
Kyle Williams is an interesting transfer from Cornell. He'll be the new inside backer. And then EJ Davis was a good D2 player at Wayne State. He should start at one of the corner spots. Now, I know they've been praising him heavily in the offseason. So,
yeah. And I forget his name. I'm pulling it up. Donovan Woolen, really, really productive player last year.
Outside backer.
At linebacker. So,
yes, he's a Texas guy.
So there's a handful of like key names on this roster. It's just I think it might take time for them to get up to speed in the FBS, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's one of those there, and being from north central Minnesota, not too far from Fargo, we're saturated with NDSU content and opinions largely. And I think a lot of their people think in FBS first year, we're instantly going to, we're just going to come in and be a 9-10 win team, compete for the conference title right away. I think they will be competitive. I don't know if they will be that top notch right away. I think a lot of the people are underestimating how difficult this transition will be. And they always put, well, we beat Minnesota, we beat Kansas State, or we beat Iowa State, and so on. Yes, you did, but you had to get massively up for that one game. That's easy. Doing it week after week with lesser depth will be the problem here. And I don't know if you can sustain that across 12 games.
Yeah, especially when their conference road games are tough. Like I said, at Air Force, at UNLV, at New Mexico, at Hawaii, like literally all the teams we've talked about so far, they have to play on the road. Yeah. So
their schedule's the inverse of New Mexico, essentially.
Yeah. It doesn't. Yeah, that schedule is not benefiting them at all. So to your point, I mean that's a huge point. Like, they're known for these massive upsets over time, but to your point, you have to get up for that one game, and then you're playing pretty much FCS. I'm not going to say mediocre teams, but I mean a lot of the teams that they're playing aren't like to an FBS standard. So how do you get up for that week over week?
And they were in one of the best, maybe the best FCS conference. But a lot of those FBS games they were playing, that was week 1. You were then playing one of your out-of-conference teams that you were going to boat race the week after that. So it was the letdown risk was very low.
Yeah, you basically have a bye week after that.
Yes.
So
don't get me wrong. I'm very happy they moved up to FBS, and I'm excited to see them. I just have tampered expectations as opposed to some.
Yeah, again, to your point, I love that they finally made the jump because they had been dominating the FCS level for just so long. Like 10 out of the last 13, I want to say, championships they've won. I think something ridiculous like that. So It's about time they made the jump. I just think it's going to take time to translate for Tim Polasek. But I mean, I like him as a head coach. I mean, all they've done year over year is continue to produce winning head coaches, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back at the history of North Dakota State head coaches, and all they do year over year is just produce winners. I mean, like he's 26-3 going into his third season. So, I mean, yeah, it's about time they made the jump. I just think it takes a beat.
Yeah, you were right, but that since 2011, 10 national titles.
Yeah,
I mean that's
it's crazy.
Yeah. And yeah, to your point, talking about Polasek is there now. This is his first head coaching job, but their former head coaches. You had Matt Entz at Fresno State.
Yep.
Wouldn't shock me if he gets a bigger job before too long. Chris Kleiman recently retired from Kansas State. Craig Bull, of course, did great at Wyoming, and that's going back to 2003. So all of their guys got FBS jobs, and with Polasek, we don't know. I guess it comes down to, does he want this to be his career job, or now that they're in FBS, is he content with being here, or does he want to bump up to an F or a P4 job? I think that will be interesting, because certainly with him being a Wisconsin native, and I think if Luke Fickell fails again this year at Wisconsin, it could be the end. I think they will want to get back to the fundamental ball they played before that. Polasek could be a guy at Wisconsin. He also, as a former Iowa O-line coach, Kirk Ferentz can't keep on coaching forever, though we say that he's like in year 24-ish. He's the longest tenured FBS coach. Both of those would be logical jobs for Tim Polasek to go to if they have openings.
Definitely.
We'll see. Yeah. But excited to see NDSU. Excuse me. Why don't you take us off on Wyoming, Reed? I got a tickle in my throat.
No worries. So the Wyoming Cowboys, I think I mean, Mike and I were talking even before we started recording that there is a path for this team to make a conference championship run. Jay Sawville going into his third year, and you might look at his overall record. Okay, he's 7-17 going into his third season at Wyoming, but they bring in Tyler Hughes, who I think is one of the more fascinating quarterbacks jumping up from the FCS level from William and Mary. I implore all the viewers to go watch Tyler Hughes' film at William and Mary.
That's good to know.
Dude is a dual threat demon. So going to put that out there. They only returned one starter on the offensive line from last season, though, but they do have some experienced depth that they're going to be bringing up to be starters this year. So, and they also have a new offensive coordinator, Christian Taylor. So holistically, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, that might translate well year one. So holistically, again, there is a road for this team to win the conference championship this year if everything clicks. 4 FCS additions on the defensive line, some decent experience within the secondary defensively. Wide receiver could be a problem when you look at them on paper. They bring in a transfer, Markel Holman, who had over 300 yards receiving last year. But aside from that, not another receiver has over 200 yards receiving. So that's a big question mark. Markel Holman is probably the one to watch, though, at running back. 1,000-yard rusher. He is a transfer in from Western Illinois. So I knew he was an FCS transfer. Nearly or over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, 7 touchdowns. So he's going to be the one to watch out in the backfield. So again, holistically, in the schedule is pretty favorable for them. Holistically, they don't have a gauntlet out of conference. I mean, they have to play Colorado State, Central Michigan, who are teams I would say are pretty much on par with Wyoming holistically, but then you have to play UNLV on the road, North Dakota State on the road, but you get Air Force and Hawaii and New Mexico all at home. So it's a very favorable schedule for Wyoming. So that's why I think there's a path for them. And
I think you mentioned a good point about their quarterback transfer, and then Christian Taylor being the new O coordinator. So the last 2 years, Taylor was with the Buffalo Bills as an assistant. He was at William and Mary before that, though. So they have a past connection with each other. The old coordinator and QB do. So that's always good to see. One of those things I'll look for. And of course, Aaron Bull, son of Craig, is still their D coordinator.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know why. I just expect them to be better than they have been under the first 2 years of Jay Sabo. I don't know how many wins that's going to look like, or, if we can even put a tangible, they will improve this much. I just expect them to be better this year. So
can't get much worse from the last few years.
That's a very good point. Yes.
There's only going up.
I know. Yeah. They really I don't want to say bottomed out on after Craig Bull left, but it might be a somewhat appropriate term. So let's talk the other newbie in the conference. Northern Illinois comes over from the MAC, where honestly I was never a big Thomas Hammock fan, so I can't say that I was too sad to see him go. Harley, of course, is the interim for this year. I don't know what Rob Harley's long-term projection is like, of if he expects to get the job, what they're looking for. But with NIU, they were 3-9 last year. They won 2 games in the MAC. What should we know about the Huskies this year?
Yeah, so you mentioned Thomas Hammock leaving for a assistant job with the Seattle Seahawks. And after that, they only bring in 12 portal additions. So very skeptical about their move there. But holistically, I'm a little higher on this team than when I was a few months ago, because they bring in a standout transfer quarterback in Taron Dickens, who you might have heard in talks with North Carolina over the offseason. I think it was academic issues. Something happened off the field that he didn't end up at North Carolina with Bill Belichick. So now he's here for Rob Harley's team. And I think holistically, he might be a better quarterback than some of the other quarterbacks he faces within this conference. And that just elevates this team to be a middle of the pack team, in my opinion, just solely because they might have the edge of quarterback. I'm going to be straight up about that. So they returned 7 starters offensively, which is pretty good continuity holistically, but
it is.
There's not a lot on paper with this team that gets me too excited, solely because, to that point I mentioned before, they only bring in 12 additions through the portal. Tony Peterson could be a pretty good offensive coordinator for this system. I think he could mesh well with what Taron Dickens' stature is and what his ability to play. And if no one knows Taron Dickens, he played at Western Carolina last year, threw for over 3,500 yards, 38 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on a 74% completion percentage. Yeah. So
was a very early portal entry, and then we heard him mentioned all these places, and then it kind of cooled. What you said about the potential academic stuff would jive with the timelines we're dealing with, though. So, and there, we were tying it back to our North Dakota State talk. Tony Peterson, their new O coordinator, he was at Illinois State last year, who was the team that beat North Dakota State in the playoffs, and is going to use a mobile running QB.
Yep.
So,
yeah. So I think Taron Dickens could fit really well in that system. Defensively, I think, even though they have their defensive coordinator being their head coach, I think this defense might lack a lot. The front seven, I think, is very undersized to play near the upper half of this conference holistically. Defensively is where they're going to struggle. Let me just say it nicely that way. Yeah.
And the defensive backs are all new. You have Malik Armstrong at free safety, was on the roster last year, but didn't start. And then your other safety, Justin Harris, transferred from an FCS school. Liam Lindo, one of the corners, is on his 5th school. He was at FCS Bryant last year. And the last one, Aaron Warren, will probably be the nickel. He was at multiple different junior colleges before this year. So that D-back room does not inspire any confidence in me in looking at it. It's all either guys who were journeymen at lower levels or have not played significant time at the FBS level. So
also a very, very, very young defensive team. Like, you look at their depth chart at linebacker, they return 1 senior and Broderick Wyndham. The other 4 in the linebacker group are all freshmen. Multiple freshmen on the defensive front, aside from James Bradley and Jay-Sean Thomas, who are the only two upperclassmen in the room. Cole Snead at defensive tackle. So there's 3 upperclassmen on the defensive line. I mean, the offensive line is littered with freshmen, tight end rooms littered with freshmen. So holistically, this is just a very young team. But again, I think Taron Dickens could, sneak out some games for them just solely because he might have the quarterback edge.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So they were another one, kind of like I said with Hawaii, where I can't say I knew a ton about them going into this summer. So glad you mentioned that for us. Let's talk about Nevada a little bit next. And this is one of those teams who I've been kind of bullish on, in a sense of when Jeff Choate was hired, I said I liked the move. We're entering his 3rd year. He had been head coach at FCS Montana State, was good. Linebacker, defensive assistant at multiple top-notch schools, Boise State, Wazoo, Florida, Washington, Texas, with Sark before taking this job. They've won 3 games in each of his first 2 years. But where the bullishness comes into play, I'm still not prepared to say he's a bad coach. Sometimes you just get into a bad situation for you, or you don't win games. And maybe that's the only mark of a good head coach. But I just expect them to take a jump forward. I probably shouldn't, but maybe I just don't want to admit I was wrong about that hire of him either. So which is it? Feel free to tell me I'm an idiot if you want to, Reed.
I will never tell someone that invites me on their show that they're an idiot. I'm only going to say that, someone has to be higher on a team than me, and that's you with Nevada.
And I don't know that I'm hiring them to get wins this year. Maybe it's just that I think he's better than some people do.
To look better on the field. They may not win, but they might look better on field. That's all that matters at the end of the day. So if you show you're more competitive, I mean, to your point, there's not a lot to be excited for. Like, they have a 3-way quarterback battle.
Yeah.
Carter Jones, who returns, UCLA transfer Luke Duncan and AJ Bianco through a quarterback battle. They haven't named a starter as of right now. They only returned 5 starters holistically in the roster. I mean, the offensive tackles might be a good duo. You return 2 all Mountain West players from last season. Maybe the best offensive tackle duo in the whole conference, actually. And Jack Foster, Leota Amama transferred in from Virginia a few years ago. But the main one I wanted to point out was Konkenauer. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Oh, Zach Konkenauer. Yes.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Jack Foster and Konkenauer are 2 of the best tackles in the entire conference. Yeah. So at least you have continuity there. New offensive coordinator Brett Bartolone, I think, has a lot to right the ship on with this offense holistically. Running backs are kind of small for my liking. Don't really have a clear-cut starter in that room for me.
The depth chart I looked at for them was all over the place. So
yeah,
that one of the questions I had specifically about that is Herschel Turner, Dominic Kelly, like who is going to start at running back for this team? Do we know?
I would assume Herschel Turner, but okay. Yeah, to your point, there's no clear-cut starter in this room.
Okay. Good to
Receiver kind of leaves some questions as well. I mean, they have Jason Doss, transferred in from Towson, nearly 700 yards receiving. Donnie Cheers, that's a great name, transferred in from Southeast Missouri, nearly 600 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. So they're relying on FCS transfers. And behind them, it's kind of a lot of unknown, not a lot of proven production behind them. So holistically,
Gary Gibbons' one was at Northern Illinois last year, talking about some of these other teams that we've already discussed, but yeah, he started for them before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, holistically, it's a lot of plug and play from P4/FCS transfers and, some players that are just returning on the roster that haven't gotten real game time.
And on defense is where I wasn't too thrilled with what I saw. it looks like they don't have, especially in the back, linebackers, D-backs, we're not returning many guys who've played a lot of football. So they might be easy to score on this year. Bishop Turner at safety played a bit last year. I don't know that anybody on that D was too outstanding, though, in 2025. So
yeah, the most notable name defensively, the most notable name is going to be Dylan WaBarbara at edge. 88 tackles, 49 solos, 17 for loss. Senior player. He's going to be the standout defensively. But again, to your point, the defensive secondary is a massive question mark.
Yes, definitely is. UTEP. We're getting near the end. We're entering year 3 of Scotty Walden, who won 5 games total. Was 3-9 his first year, 2-10 last year. They only won 1 conference game in 2025. So that I don't know. And that of course they were in CUSA last year, so that win was against Sam Houston, who was very poor last year.
Yeah.
And this UTEP team got it. It just seems like it's been so long since they have been relevant and competitive. I think when Walden took that job, coming over from FCS Austin P, it was one of the tougher rebuilds in that country. And looking at this roster, it's totally revamped. Like there can't be many G6 teams that use the portal more than UTEP did this year. So what can you tell us about them?
Do I have to talk about UTEP?
You don't have to. You can tell us you're unenthused. EJ Colson might be the QB. That's we were. In fact, he was at Incarnate Word last year, Central Florida before that. So he was in a team where they scored points, but the whole offensive line is new. They will be replacing all 5 starters. So, it looks like going to be a tough year 1 in the Mountain West for UTEP.
I hate calling for people's jobs on any show. I do Little in Mind show. Scotty Walden might get canned this year. And
he's another guy, like he's a young head coach who succeeded at the FCS level. It's not the end of his career. Maybe he just took a job that was, he bit off more than he could chew.
Definitely. I mean, just even their road games this year, on the road to Oklahoma and Michigan out of conference.
Yeah.
And in conference, you have to play New Mexico, North Dakota State, and Air Force on the road. Oh, and then you have to make a cross-country trip against Northern Illinois at the end of November where it could potentially be snowing. So that's always fun. But to your point, I mean, EJ Colson does give them some upside defensively, and they have a really good transfer addition in Carver Cheeks. Yep. Great name. Nearly 1,000-yard receiver last year, I believe. Yeah, Northern Colorado transferred from the FCS level. So they have a couple of transfer additions that could stand out. But again, holistically, I'm not very high on this team. They return no starters in the offensive line. It's going to be a full portal rebuild. As you mentioned, the front 7 defensively is mostly FCS portal additions. So yeah, I'm just not entirely high on this team whatsoever, except maybe EJ Colson could sneak out some games for them at quarterback. But yeah, I don't see it with UTEP this year. I think Scotty Walden might be done.
Yeah, they're a team, like you look at week 2 after Oklahoma and before Michigan, they have their FCS game against Texas Southern. That might be the only win they like. There's a definite doomsday scenario where they go, this is a 1-11 team, I think. Like it could happen.
Yeah.
Because we haven't talked about San Jose State yet. You have them projected 10th. There is a scenario where San Jose State beats UTEP and UTEP doesn't win a conference game. Like that, these two teams are not looking fantastic. So let's end the misery and move on to San Jose State and talk about them. Ken Numatalolo, good head coach. They were not good last year, 3-9, 2-6 in the Mountain West. But maybe they're more promising than UTEP, that's a really, really low bar to even say that, just because neither of these teams have a lot going for them now. But with San Jose State, Luke Weaver transfer, probably going to be the QB, was at Hawaii last year, another team we've talked about. But what else should we know about the Spartans? All the receivers are all new too, so yeah.
Well, I hope Luke Weaver, the incoming transfer, can at least hold on to the football, because they were one of the worst turnover margin teams in the entire country last year. Turnovers were abysmal for them last year. So at least if they can improve on that front. And to your point, I really like Ken Niumatalolo as a head coach. I mean, I am partially a Navy fan because of my father. So I grew up watching Ken Niumatalolo at Navy. So I have kind of a soft spot for him in that regard, but I just think I just think San Jose State's just a bad situation holistically. I mean, to your point, the receivers and running backs are kind of bleak. The offensive line might be really bad again. They returned 2 starters. 3 of them are going to be portal additions coming in. The defensive line, although they have experience, are kind of undersized. The defensive backs don't look great. And again, they finished 1-6 to finish their season last year. They fired their defensive coach. They have a new defensive coach, Boj Filimoa. Names are not.
You probably got close there, or as close as I would have done. He was the interim D coordinator last year when they fired the other guy.
Yeah.
He's been an assistant there ever since Ken has been there. So I don't know how much new things they'll be doing, but yeah.
Yeah. Again, there's just not a lot of hope for this team. Like, literally in my projections, their one swing game on the schedule is UTEP. So I think that's the game to circle. Like, maybe Nevada, they could squeak out, not Nevada, excuse me. Like Fresno State, they could squeak out. Eastern Michigan, they have to play on the road. They have to open the season at USC. That's a guaranteed loss. So Hawaii on the road, they have to play Air Force on the road. So it's gonna be an uphill climb this year.
Whoever loses the battle between UTEP and San Jose State, they might be on 1-11 watch. Certainly are probably looking at double-digit losses. Whoever loses that game probably loses 10. Because I don't know if you're winning too many more. But looking at the Mountain West, so we summed up everybody. Thank you for that. Far more in-depth than I could have been in this conference. I greatly appreciate that.
Of course.
If you were projecting now, so I'll flash this up. Would you project UNLV and New Mexico to play in the conference title game, or do you think Air Force slides in there?
I think it's definitely going to be close all the way to the end, but I do project UNLV and New Mexico to play in the conference championship.
Awesome.
And to that point that I said at the start of the show, I think New Mexico isn't getting enough credit. I think New Mexico can win this conference. I fully believe that. I'm giving the edge to UNLV just solely because nothing is making me say that New Mexico is for sure going to win the conference right now. I just am personally higher on them than a lot of people that I have seen in the space. So I have to go with the consensus in UNLV right now, but I might very well switch that in 2 weeks when the season starts. So
okay, that's fair. Yeah. And that's the other one, you talked about it, the week 0 one. Our opinion on UNLV could greatly change one way or the other.
Yeah.
If they get rolled by Memphis, if they boat race Memphis, we could change. Yeah.
Yeah. UNLV could boat race them, and everyone is validated. Okay, this is a G6 contender. They lose by 3 touchdowns to Memphis. New Mexico is the clear favorite in my head then, as soon as that happens. So
yeah. If you were looking at it right now, Mountain West wise, I'm going to ask you, who would you project for an offensive and defensive player of the year?
Okay. Offensive player of the year. I mean, I think I have to go Jet Thomas at UNLV, right? Okay. I mean, this guy is, I think, the best running back in all of the G6. I mean, you look at what he did last year, over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, nearly 7 yards a carry, which is like top 10 in the country. So I think he's kind of overlooked because he is playing at UNLV. You know, he's not at a power school. But I think holistically, you have to go Jet Thomas. If Pofele Ashlock was healthy going into the season, might have put him up there. You also could put Mike Alejado at Hawaii because they're going to be able to put up tons of points, tons of stats. So Mike Alejado would also put in that conversation. And maybe like a sneaky pick that I think, you know, could come out of the woodworks. I'm gonna say Liam Sarska. If he could clean up the interceptions, maybe take a step forward passing the ball. Yeah. He's gonna run the ball a ton at Air Force. And again, I mean, I view them near the top of this conference. If he has them in the conference championship game, I think he could definitely be in that conversation for Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I like the top. I was probably leaning Alejado on that, and part of that might have been I default towards QBs more when talking about the awards, just because it's likely. Then on the defensive side of the ball, I'll go first here for this one. I think there's a few guys you had mentioned. We talked about two of them, in fact. Jackson Eck and Blake Fletcher, both in the mix, as is Dylan LaBarbera. I think if I had to pick one, though, I would probably go Blake Fletcher just because I think they're going to see that tackle number on a good team. So I would lean Blake Fletcher, I think, for Defensive Player of the Year. Then
I will go with the other standout name you mentioned, Jackson Eck. I think he's by far and away the standout player on the defensive side for New Mexico, let alone he's the coach's son, so he gets a little bit of recognition for that. But over nearly 130 tackles last year, 7 for loss, 2 sacks, 3 pass breakups. Like, the dude is a beast, and I think didn't get enough credit for what he helped lead this New Mexico team to last year. They were a really good defensive team, and I think they repeat that this year for the Lobos.
Awesome. I'll ask you a couple more questions before we adjourn here. In this conference, Mountain West, which coach is on the hottest seat? I think I know who your answer is going to be.
I mean, I got on him pretty hard when we mentioned this team. I think it's Scotty Walden.
Yeah,
without a doubt. I mean,
yeah, I agree. I think he is
either him or Nia Montalolo, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, Walden would be the guy. Jeff Choate might be out. Age might be playing a role too. Being older, they might not want to have you stick around if that's the case. Then the next question I always ask, which coach in this conference with a good season or two is the most likely to vault himself to a P4 or a way better job?
See, there was a handful you could go here because we mentioned
there are several. Yes,
I'm high on Jason Eck. Dan Mullen is a former Power 4 head coach, could get back to that level. Polasek, who we mentioned at North Dakota State, one good year. You know, Wisconsin would be a great fitter, like any really Big Ten team in the Midwest. I think it's too clear cut. I got to go with my guy Jason Eck. I love him as a head coach.
Yeah,
just solely on favorability, he's probably a top 10 coach in my book, just solely based on favorites. I'm not saying holistically in the country, like with Cignetti, Kirby Smart, stuff like that, but Jason Eck, I think, has done a fantastic job at New Mexico, and I'm glad that, you know, someone like a Josh Pate is giving him the credit and recognition that he deserves for what he's done at New Mexico so far. Even though he's only going into his second year, I think maybe not after this season. I think maybe 2 more good years at New Mexico. I think I could definitely see him jump to a Power 4 job.
And Eck's a guy who has experience coaching at both Wisconsin and Colorado, 2 teams in the near future where it's possible that they have an opening. For me, I don't think you can go wrong saying Eck. I think he's the right choice. Like Polasek, he's a Midwest guy. We talked about all those schools that potentially are going to have openings. It just makes a lot of sense there that he would be the one.
And Eck, sorry to cut you off, but Eck has proven, you know, to be a builder at Idaho and now doing it in New Mexico. Like, I think it's just right for him to take that jump to a lower level P4 school, do the same thing.
Question in this realm, we've seen West Virginia and UCF hire former coaches in Rich Rod and Scott Frost.
Yeah.
If Mississippi State tanks it again this year, which they could, and Jeff Lebby's no longer there,
Definitely.
do they go back with Mullen? Yeah.
It's definitely on the cards,
I think it's on the table because I think they
Yeah.
would in a second take him back because I think they might have the realistic mindset that's tough to admit of that might be the best we're ever going to be with him. We would take that based on what we've been doing lately.
You know what? And shout out to my guy, AT at Tampa 2 College Football on Twitter. Definitely go give him a follow. If you ever have him on the program, that's the first question you should ask him because I think he gives you heartbeat answer. Yes.
Funny, I actually didn't know that you knew that guy. I've also used a couple of the Tampa 2 graphics on my shows. So glad we can connect a name with the face there and know,
For sure.
know who he is. So that's
great guy.
That's good to know. Yeah. But I don't think I have any more. I think that's a good ending spot for. I will ask. And this is not just New Mexico, but all of G6 wise, what G6 team makes the playoffs this year?
See, I have a handful that are in the discussion. So, like right now, UNLV and New Mexico are easily both there because I'm kind of going back and forth between who I think could make it from that conference. Boise State obviously is in this conversation. I mean, on paper, they're going to be the best roster in the G6. Like Liberty, I see having a really good season out of CUSA. James Madison, I think, is going to be right back there in the Sun Belt with Billy Napier. Navy and UTSA, I have it battling out for the American. In my opinion, I think either of them could definitely be in the conversation. So right now, if I had to put money on it today, or like my life savings on it, I probably would say Boise State. I think it's just it's the safest pick.
This is the one we had for you. I had the AAC one.
Yeah. So I got Navy, UTSA playing in the American Championship. I give Navy the slight edge just solely because I'm might be a little bit of a homer for Navy, as I pointed out earlier. But
we have the most interesting hypothetical in the world with Navy, and I hate it because the way our schedule works. We could have a scenario where Navy goes to the American title. Navy wins that game. Navy gets invited to the playoffs. Then you have to play a regular season game against Army. If I'm Navy, I don't play anybody good in that game. You don't risk getting people hurt. Of course, the people are going to say, Mike, you don't understand the pageantry. You don't get it. Yeah, I do get it. And the playoffs are more important. That's my soapbox for the day. Sorry.
See, my father would also give you the same answer because he thought Navy got screwed last year and should have played in the American Conference Championship. So he's been on that soapbox for over a year now.
Okay. It's an interesting hypothetical. It's also why, and I believe Monken said this a couple months ago, we should move the Army and Navy game to the rivalry week, the week after Thanksgiving. They should play when the other rivalry. Now, dedicated to let them have their own window on TV. We can have non-conflicting game time, but put it that weekend, please.
I think keep it in if you put it on that Saturday, you could put it at the noon window, push every game back to 3:30 or later, and you even have games that Friday night.
Yes, because you have
Iowa,
Nebraska is Black Friday.
Texas, and A&M.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Egg Bowl is Saturday now, but it has been Friday night before.
Yeah. Like you could easily move around other games to solely put that game at the noon window for sure.
Okay. But Reed, thank you for being here. This was a great episode. Loved it. I'll tag all of your account, when I share this so our viewers can easily follow you. And again, thank you. Great episode.
Appreciate it again, Mike. And again, doing great work over here. I hope to be back on soon.